Ego is an activity, not an entity. The way we speak about the ego, it's very misleading because we speak about it like it's an entity, like it's something that exists on its own. But upon closer examination, we never find some separate entity that we call the ego. And that's why it's so sneaky. It's really an activity. It's an activity that's always changing. It's always modulating itself. It's appearing to be an entity. But it's very much like a mirage. From a distance, it looks like it exists. But the closer we approach it, it just starts disappearing. And we never find this separate entity that we are calling the ego. It's also misleading because the way we speak about it, we typically blame negative things or unfortunate things or bad things on our ego. Oh, that wasn't me. It was my ego. But that too is the ego. That too is that activity. So this ego would actually be more correct to be saying it more like a verb, egoing, this me that I believe to be. It's not a separate entity. It's an activity of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions. It feels like it's actually got some substance. The way these thoughts and feelings and sense perceptions are all kind of interconnected. It feels like it's tangible. When you refer to yourself as me, that me feels very tangible. Like, where is that me? Me. We kind of point towards our body, me. Somewhere in this body, there's a me as a separate entity. But that's what I'm pointing to, is that when we actually closely look, when we investigate further, we never find this separate entity that we believe to be. But most of us are afraid to look. It takes courage to look. But realizing this, that this me that I believe to be doesn't really exist, that it's only a modulation of thoughts and feelings and sense perceptions. It's an interconnectedness of beliefs, roles, identities, personalities. They're always changing. Just see that your thoughts are always changing. Your feelings are always changing. Your identities are always changing. Your roles are always changing. Your personalities are always changing. All of these are changing. There's no separate entity that is changeless, that has some structure, substance that's solid. when we look closely, there's nothing. There's no thing. And this is freedom. There's no freedom for the person. There's freedom from the person. And realizing that this person that we believe to be is nothing more than an activity of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, well then there's a freedom that's realized. We start seeing how silly it is, how serious we took life. Because it's very much about maintaining this identity, maintaining this role, maintaining the story, maintaining the self-image. But we see when we look closely that all of these things are changing. They're all changing. That's why there's so much effort required to maintain it. It's because it's always moving. This ego, like I said, it's more of like ego-wing. It's a movement. It's a movement. And as you become more and more aware of this activity that we are calling the ego, you start seeing the movement. You start seeing the pattern. You start noticing the changes. And you start realizing that there's this activity that you are observing, and you start noticing that you are identified with the movement. You are identified with the activity. And there appears to be like a separation happening. There starts to be a distilling. That you start becoming aware of the activity, but you also start becoming aware of you. The formless emptiness that is simply witnessing the activity. How could you be aware of this activity if you were not aware? Because you are aware, you are watching it, you are seeing all of the activity and seeing clearly that all of this activity is changing. All of this activity is coming and going. All of this activity is appearing and disappearing. But you, the witness, the one that's beyond the activity, the one that's observing the activity, you do not come and go. You do not change. You are not appearing and disappearing. You are ever present. That's how you are able to see the movements arise. That's how you are able to see the activities appear and disappear. So something significant happens when you're seeing so clearly these activities, because you stop paying attention to the activities and start paying attention to yourself, the one that's watching. You become less distracted by the activities. And your attention returns back to yourself. So you naturally become more and more aware of yourself. You start to become more and more familiar with yourself. You start knowing yourself. And then you realize who and what you are. See you in the next one.